I personally love visiting cemeteries and historical sites, just roaming around in cemeteries, even if it's a cemetery where I don't even know the person. I love looking at headstones. I love just thinking about the people. I love feeling the energy of the cemetery and just having that reverence for the people that came before us. Hi, I'm Ashleigh, and welcome to the Big Crystal Energy Podcast. This is a place for the crystal curious, arcane-minded, and everything in the in-between. In this podcast, we will jump down the rabbit hole into the metaphysical, esoteric, occult, and spiritual realms. Nothing is off limits. I'm a mom, wife, an orthopedic physician assistant by day, and a seeker of all things spooky and kooky by night. I've spent my entire career in the medical field, but have always felt like there is more out there, and this is where we will explore together. We will have conversations with crystal healers, rock hounds, artists, musicians, spiritual coaches, magic makers, and anything woo-woo that strikes our fancy. Let's take our spiritual journey to the next level. So grab a crystal, pour a cup of tea. It's time to feel the big crystal energy. Welcome back to Big Crystal Energy, my friends. I'm Ashleigh, your kooky, spooky host. If you are new here, welcome. I think we have a lot of new listeners, which makes my black little heart so happy. And this is a great first episode. You guys, today we're stepping straight into one of my favorite times of the year, what I like to call the season of the witch. I'm recording this episode on Monday, September 1st. And to be honest, it does not feel like fall is in the air where I live at all. It is literally 104 degrees outside. But something is definitely brewing because my dear husband, as we speak, is in the process of dyeing his hair red. And I don't know if I should be supportive or horrified. So I'm sure there will be lots of social media content surrounding his new. But for me, this isn't just about spooky decor or pumpkin cream cold brews, though I do love those too. It's about that shift in the air when the days get shorter, the nights get crisper, and the energy feels different, a little more magical, a little more mysterious. This season has always called me in a deep, witchy way. And in this episode, I want to explore what that really means. So we'll talk about what the season of the witch is, the witchy activities you can dive into this fall, and even some of my personal plans, which I have a lot of. My retreat to Salem, which is, as we record, is in 2 days. Well, the retreat is at the end of the week, but I fly out in 2 days. A magical photo session that I'm going to be doing, and yes, my new Headless Horseman tattoo. Plus, I'll share some witchy books and movies and shows that you can cozy up with. And of course, I want to hear from you. What are you doing for spooky season? What are you doing for the season of the witch? I want to hear all of the things. I want recommendations. Every year, if I do this episode every year at this time of year, I want it to be different. I don't want it to be reiterations of the same thing. So share with me, tag me on social media, send me a DM. I want to know what you guys are up to this time of the year. I'm just going to share some of the stuff that I'm up to, some of the things that I was thinking about. I am not going to be sharing any crystals on this episode because I have my whole Seasons of the Witch crystal series that I'm doing, which the first crystal in that series is coming out already come out on Tuesday of this week with Newmite. So check that out. And then every week will be some other witchy stone. And also, don't forget, our Big Crystal Energy book club episode is coming up with the fabulous Miss Ava Morgan, the author of The Bane Witch. And that episode will be airing on Friday, September 12th. You won't want to miss it. So get out there, get that book, read it, because it's fun to always read the book before the interview with the guest. Now, if you have not read the book prior to the interview being released, that's okay. There are no spoilers. It was just kind of a high-level overview of the story, and we chatted about a lot of other things. So if you don't have time before, next Friday, then it's okay. You can always listen back. So the season of the witch, what is that? To me, this is the time of year when things really start to change. Like I said, it's not really changing that much where I live. I can see that the days are getting shorter. Of course, it's getting dark out earlier, but it's still ridiculously hot here. And I am so over it. I'm so over the heat. It is just stifling. Today, it is so incredibly intensely hot that I haven't even really been outside all day. I'm hoping to go out on a walk later, but we'll see. This time of year, it just feels so special because this is a time of year when I really feel like I can truly be myself in a more mainstream type of way because it's somehow more acceptable this time of year. Well, not necessarily starting in September, but definitely definitely once we get to the end of September, October. And the season of the witch is kind of this cultural term for the autumn season when we say the veil is thinning. Now, if you are new to all these terms, if you're new to this podcast, if you're new to witchy stuff, if you're new to the crystal world, let me just explain to you what it means when I say it's the time of the year when the veil thins. What I mean is, energetically, the boundary between our physical world and the spiritual world feels less solid. Okay. In many cultures and traditions, autumn, especially around Samhain, or the other word for that is Halloween, is seen as a time when it's easiest to connect with ancestors, spirits, and unseen energies. The veil is like a curtain that separates the everyday world that we move through from the mystical, spiritual, or otherworldly realms. So during the fall, particularly as the days shorten and we approach October, that curtain is said to become thinner. So signs, synchronicities, dreams, and spirit communication can feel more vivid or easier to access. Now, whether you see that literally or metaphorically, the idea is that this season invites us to slow down, reflect, honor those who came before us, and lean more into our intuitive witchy side. So for me, it feels like a time of heightened intuition, mystery, and just those witchy vibes, which I love. My personal connection, why is fall my witchiest, most magical time of year? I think, like I said just a moment ago, I think it's a time where I truly feel it's more acceptable to be myself. People don't question certain things about me as much because a lot of people are feeling this shift, whether they want to admit it or not. Personally, I really don't decorate my house as much as you would think. I would love to, but unfortunately, time just does not allow for that. Some years it does, some years it does not. But I do love when the weather gets cooler. I do love going on some spooky shopping sprees at Marshall's, TJ Maxx, Home Goods, and stocking up on fun stuff and getting more spooky season decor, even though I have plenty of it already. But it's always fun to get new pieces. We're still deciding on Halloween costumes at my house. We have our annual Halloween photos that we do every year of the kids. Sometimes I jump in and join the kids with my husband. Sometimes we do not. It depends on if we all have our costumes in time. And I tend to spend a lot more time outside because it's just, once it gets cooler, it's just so much nicer. I love to take long walks. I love to take in the changing of the leaves. Yes, people say that there are no seasonal changes in California. That is not true. There are seasonal changes. It's not as dramatic as other places in the world or in the country, but you can definitely tell a difference. And I love to be out walking because now that I'm part of the Cool Mom Weighted Vest Club, I got to get out there and I got to put in the miles. But I do not love the shorter days, but I just love the way that the season feels. I feel a deep shift inside my soul when we get to this time of year. So when I was a kid, when I was young, my parents were divorced. So I would spend part of Halloween with my mom and part of Halloween with my dad, and we would just go around to different houses. Halloween is so much different now than it ever used to be. My mom used to make my costume every year. My mother is a very talented seamstress, still have the pumpkin costume that she made me when I was in elementary school. And actually, I think my husband was it last year? No, 2 years ago, I made my husband wear it. It's hard to explain because it has like this stretchy bottom part and top parts, and then you just fill it with puffy stuff. So even though it's for a child, it could actually fit an adult. But, Halloween now is so different for kids. I mean, the neighborhood outings are so much more overblown, get so much more candy. And so my children's experience with Halloween is just wildly different than my own. But I grew up in a house with my dad. Our house that I grew up in was built in the 1800s. It felt like a very haunted house. I have so many vivid memories of things that I would say now looking back were maybe hauntings. I don't know. But we had this witch mannequin that we had made, and it was literally in our entryway year round. But my dad's house is this old kind of Victorian style home. And when I was in high school, my friend Anna would always come over and we would love to kind of set up the front entryway with all of our Halloween stuff and then scare kids as they came to do trick-or-treating. And then after most of the people settled down, her and I would head out, go around the neighborhood a little bit at night. But, kids these days, it's just a totally different thing. But this time of year, it really does fuel my creativity. I feel more energetic. I feel more magical. I feel things so much more deeply. And I think that people like us, people that are in the magical community, people that identify themselves as witches or magical people, I think we tend to feel that. It's really hard to pinpoint what exactly that feeling is. But when you have it, you just know what it is, right? So, I will chat about some options of things that you could potentially do this fall. I mean, you don't have to do all of these. Certainly, I'm not doing all of these. I'm just sharing these things through my own personal lens this year because this is kind of what I'm up to. But I mean, truly, the list of things that you can do during spooky season is endless. If you are someone that is really into cooking or creating cocktails and drinks, you could potentially go out and do apple picking and then make pies, or you could make cider, or you could make mulled wine. I do kind of like mulled wine occasionally. It's a little bit sweet, but I do like it once in a while. If you're someone that's really into kitchen witchery, you could do all of those types of things. Personally, I am really into candle magic, shadow work journaling. I have an amazing shadow work journal that my husband got me for my birthday. I personally love visiting cemeteries and historical sites, just roaming around in cemeteries, even if it's a cemetery where I don't even know the person. I love looking at headstones. I love just thinking about the people. I love feeling the energy of the cemetery and just having that reverence for the people that came before us. If you're someone that loves to take walks, I think one of the things that I am kind of planning on doing this year is when I'm out on my walks, collecting little things that I could maybe put on my seasonal altar, whether that's gorgeous leaves that are falling, acorns, pine cones, things like that. They always make a beautiful arrangement on your seasonal altar. I love to do oracle card or tarot card spreads that lead into, that kind of give me the overarching feel for what this season is going to bring for me. And I do have some really cool oracle decks and tarot card decks that I'm going to share later that I think if you more interested in getting a more spooky season, Halloweenish, inclined deck, these are my recommendations. And I do have all of them. Oopsie, I wasn't supposed to buy any more decks this year, but unfortunately, that's just something that I did not stick with at all. Another thing is you could look for night markets, witchy markets, fall festivals, community rituals in your area. I know my husband is still practicing Catholic, but at our local Catholic church, they have their fall festival every year, which is fun because they have lots of activities and it's not really, if you're not into the religious aspect of it, it's just a festival, Sometimes they have those mystical what are they? Not mystical. Whimsy markets, I think they're called. Yeah, whimsy markets. Sometimes they have those around where I live. Of course, there's always like different fall festivals that you could check out. Those kind of always put you in the vibe of the season. Pumpkin patches. Personally, I like a smaller pumpkin patch. There was one that we always used to go to that was kind of by where we used to live in the country, and it was much smaller and much more affordable, and they still had a corn maze and they still had pumpkins to choose from, and it wasn't quite as expensive. The pumpkin patch that I grew up going to, shout out Fontenelle Orchards outside of Fremont, Nebraska. You would go up, they had just like this little room where you could buy apple cider and corn nuts, and then they had the pumpkins in the front, and it wasn't this overblown thing like it is today. Now it's like a big production even back there, but personally, I just don't like the things that make me feel like I'm at Disneyland. You could go to Disneyland for their Halloween extravaganza, which I do enjoy myself, and we went last year, but it's too much. We don't have time this year. So if you are near Disneyland or Disney World, you could consider going. Their decorations are fabulous. We do our annual trip to the Spirit Halloween store. You don't have to buy anything when you go there. It's just fun to walk around. My son this year is like, Mom, we got to go buy an animatronic and we need a blow up. Oh my gosh, you guys, I have a deep loathing for blow ups. Hate them. I think they're so ugly. I think they're so cheesy. I hate during the day when the blow up deflates and they just look like garbage all over the front yard. No, I just can't. I understand that they're easier for people because you just plug them in and they blow up and then you have decorations, but I just think they're horrible. We got a really cool Headless Horseman piece last year. So I don't think we need our front porch and our front yard is very small. So we can only have a couple bigger pieces out there. Otherwise it just looks tacky. So that's one thing. How do you feel about Ouija boards? Maybe you want to get together with some friends and get the Ouija board out. Maybe you want to have a Halloween party or holiday spooky season party in general. Maybe you want to host a spooky book club. I have a great idea. You guys could read The Bane Witch by Ava Morgan. Love it. And on that note, yes, the Bane Witch book club episode is coming and airing on September 12th, which is the Friday after this Friday. So make sure that you read the book and then you can join along for the conversation. And it's a great book for a book club get together too. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but I have something you need to hear. Have you been feeling a shift? A pull towards something more? Whether you're manifesting new opportunities, confidence, or a major glow up, the universe is listening, and I've got just the thing. In a crystal clarity call, I'll intuitively select 3 crystals to support your manifestations, pull a tarot or oracle card for deeper guidance, and craft custom journal prompts to help you take action. It's more than a reading, it's an energetic roadmap. So if you're ready to align with your highest self, DM me on Instagram at mystical.mama.ash for details and pricing. Let's bring your magic to life. Other book recommendations that I could offer, I mean, of course, we have Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman, The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I started reading that last year, but then I got distracted because I always have, like, I don't know if you're like me, but I always have way too many books going at the same time. I hate that I do that. I wish I was someone that would start a book and get through it and then move on to the next one. I just don't. I always have multiple going at the same time. So I do want to read that one this year. We have The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. For your kids, you could get out the classic scary stories to tell in the dark. I have all mine from the early 90s. I have a couple other books here that I could recommend. This one I got at a local bookstore in Sacramento. Let me pull it up here. It was called Slewfoot by Brahm. This was a surprise. It was a staff pick at this bookstore that I went to, and I actually thought this book was really cool. I mean, it was a really intense read, but I highly recommend it. Slewfoot by Brahm. Also, one of the books that I picked up last year when we were on our trip out to Salem and Sleepy Hollow, I got this book called The Untitled Horseman. I think it's a revisiting of the Headless Horseman book, and I got this at Transom Bookshop in Sleepy Hollow, New York. So I want to read that since I'm going to be getting, oh, look at this, how cool. I have, oh, fun. I have all these postcards that I got from the bookstore last year in there. Cool. So this book, The Untitled Horseman by Jude S. Walco. As far as nonfiction, one option, I have three options. Number one, Healing the Witch Wound by Celeste Larson. That is such a powerful book. I read it 2 years ago, and it is a book that is definitely worth revisiting. Healing the Liminal by Marcella Kroll is another excellent book. I read that while we were traveling through Iceland. And then one of my other favorites is Waking the Witch by Pam Grossman. This is such a cool book. It's Waking the Witch, Reflections on Women, Magic, and Power. And she has an amazing podcast called The Witch Wave, which I would highly recommend as well. One of the things that I have actually been working on currently is making a witchy or Big Crystal Energy spooky season podcast playlist on Spotify. So as soon as I get that together, I will share that. You could Season of the Witch playlist. You could listen, the famous song by Donovan, Season of the Witch, which of course Lana Del Rey remade. There's tons of witchy occult inspired playlists on Spotify, probably on all other platforms as well. I just love playing those during this time of the year. I always hear songs that I love. And then of course I hear songs that I've never heard before that I add to my own personal playlist. I would love for you guys to share what songs make you feel inspired this time of year. What songs are you connecting with? I would love to hear that. Anything but country. That's my only thing. I don't listen to country, guys. I'm sorry. I'm probably isolating a lot of people. I am just not a country girly. I just can't. I grew up in Nebraska. It was never part of my life growing up in the Midwest. I always listened to like hardcore metal, classic rock, all those kinds of things. I never listened to country. And to this day, I still do not prefer it. Please don't cancel me, guys. I swear I'm still a good person. It's just not my preference. If you love country, please, by all means, love country. That's amazing for you. It's just not for me. It's kind of like rap. It's just not really for me, but I feel like the world is not as divided about rap as it is about country. I feel like everybody loves country except me, and often I'm just in the minority. So anyway, I digress. That was a tangent that nobody needed to hear. What rituals, what activities make you feel witchy or kind of spooky or, whatever? How do you feel the change in the energy? What is the shift that you experience? I would love to hear your experiences with this time of year. I mean, for me, it's truly just a feeling. I like to redo my altars in my house. Of course, I do like to decorate a little bit. I love to just be outside. I mean, all these things I've already said before. So that's the thing. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be very simple, which is actually better. You know what I did not mention? And this is huge for me, my wardrobe. I feel so at liberty to wear all of the cool, like Stevie Nicks inspired witchy clothes that I have. I have all these beautiful dresses and skirts and sweaters, and it's just so fun to wear that stuff. Because of course you can't wear it in the summer because it's too hot. And I'm just not a shorts girly. So I'm not a shorts or short skirt girly by any means. So I love wearing skirts, but only in the fall and winter. How about our favorite witchy movies? My iconic classic, like true Ashleigh lore is The Witches. It's inspired by the Roald Dahl book, and this movie came out in 1990. I kid you not that I would make my dad rent that movie for me almost every single weekend. I don't know why we never ended up buying it. Maybe it wasn't easy to buy. I'm not really sure. But are you guys familiar with this movie with Angelica Houston? Oh my gosh, she was the Grand High Witch. I was obsessed with her. I wanted in that movie, I can even still think about it today. Like she had such a presence. She was so like powerful, and I just wanted to be the Grand High Witch. My favorite scene in the movie is when all the witches are in that auditorium at the hotel, and then she tells everybody to start taking off their masks, and they take off their wigs, and they're all gross. And then at the very end, she has this like beautiful black silk dress on, but then it has a cape with purple underneath it. And then she pulls her mask off, and she's just like this grotesque, horrible looking witch. Oh my God. Love it. I mean, you can hear it in my voice. I still get excited about that movie now from 1990. Let's see. How old is that? 35 years. Oh my gosh. I am so dating myself, guys. How could that movie be 35 years old when I'm only 25? Come on. Jeez. They did do a remake of that movie several years ago with Anne Hathaway. Not a huge fan of it. It was okay. The other classics we have Practical Magic, Hocus Pocus, one of my all-time favorites, The Witches of Eastwick. Do you remember that movie with Cher, Susan Sarandon, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Jack Nicholson? If you guys are young, the younger generation, you probably don't know that movie, but I loved that movie growing up. Of course, we have the classic, The Craft. Any 90s girly witch knows about The Craft. The Nightmare Before Christmas, that's on repeat nonstop at my house, basically year round, but it gets even more amplified when we get closer to spooky season. Coraline is so cute. Corpse Bride, The Love Witch for your more vintage vibes. I would love to hear what movies you guys like to watch this time of year. I am not a horror girly. I don't like slashers really. I don't like any of that kind of stuff. I love scary stuff. I like suspense. I just don't like Saw or anything that's like a thrasher horror. I'm not really into that. And I'm not really into like the cheesy scare, like what was it, Scream, where it's like cheesy spoof stuff. I'm not really into that either. A couple other like series, TV shows that I could recommend potentially. I'm sure you guys have already heard of these before, but True Blood was so good. It was on, I think, HBO. It's been off the air for years, but they had vampires and fairies and all the things that I love. And then I could also recommend another old series that's no longer on, Dexter, which is all about a serial killer. So that's always fun to watch. Yeah, there's lots of options, of course. We could just have a whole episode about books and movies and TV shows that are spooky related. I also love to work with my Seasons of the Witch Oracle decks by Lorraine Anderson. Many of them are illustrated by one of my favorite artists, Tiana Lukovic, who I've mentioned many, many times on the podcast. The two decks that are the most fun to work with this time of year are the Mabon and the Samhain decks, and it also has an associated journal that you could get. I love these because they're just these seasonal, intuitive, magical tools that are easy to work with, and the artwork on them is amazing, and there's lots of spreads and different things inside the little booklet that you could do. I have a bunch of tarot decks, such as I think I have 2 different Halloween tarot decks. I have the Beetlejuice one, the Nightmare Before Christmas. I also have a glow-in-the-dark tarot, which is super cool. But I mean, any tarot deck really works. You don't have to have a seasonal one. I just like them because I'm kind of a deck whore, you could call me. But some of them I don't really connect with as much as I think the deck that I own that I connect the most with is my Modern Witches tarot deck. The imagery on it is closer to the Rider-Waite Smith decks, but it's just more modernized. So I really love that just for a learning tool and just like the visual of it. But it's still fun to work with other decks, seasonally. So what are my big plans this fall? Well, you guys, if you're following me on social media, get ready. If you are not following me on social media at mystical.mama.ash, you probably want to, because I am leaving for Salem in 2 days. I am going on a solo trip out there. First of all, I signed up for this retreat with this woman named Natasha Silko. I found her through Instagram. It's an interesting story as to how this even came about, but this was about 1.5 years ago or more. One morning I woke up and I was getting the kids ready to go to school, and I just happened to click on my Instagram. I did not follow this woman before, and somehow in my feed, I saw her and she was talking about this retreat that she does in Salem several times a year. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. And this is before we even ever went to Salem last year. So I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go to this retreat. But it's just like such an impulsive move because I don't even know who this person is. I don't know much about this retreat, but I feel like I need to be there. For whatever reason, I just had this feeling, just knowing that I needed to be part of this retreat. So I took the kids to school and I came home and I got onto her website and I was like, oh my gosh, there's still an opening in September for her fall retreat. And the reason that she does them in September and not October, because people ask all the time, why don't you do this in October closer to Halloween? Because Salem is too freaking packed. Even last year when we went at the end of September, first week of October, it was so packed by the end of that week. It was almost not enjoyable because it was just too many people. So she tries to keep it close to, she keeps it in this time of year, but also at the beginning of the month when it's still enjoyable and we can get around to all the places that we want to go and not feel just inundated by the swarms of people that come to Salem. And it's understandable why people want to go to Salem because it's so cool and it's just truly an amazing place to go. It's just a beautiful little town. There's so much history. There's so many amazing shops and restaurants and all of the things. But anyway, so I signed up for the retreat and I emailed her and she was basically telling me that I was the last one to get to get in on that particular retreat. And I was just like, wow, that was such divine timing, because if that had not popped up on my feed that day, then I would have never gotten into the retreat. Not only that, then I would have never followed her journey on her Instagram. And now I don't know any of the women that are going. I think it's a pretty small group. So we are staying at a place called the Coach House, and it's just going to be this gorgeous witchy retreat, and I can't wait. And ahead of the retreat, I'm going 2 days early because I don't want to feel rushed, and I'm doing an amazing photo session with this woman named this photographer artist Courtney Brooke at The Light Witch on Instagram, and it's just going to be like this very artistic photo session, and I cannot wait to share my vision of what her and I have talked about, what we're going to do. And then on Friday, I'm going to get my Headless Horseman tattoo by her name. She's at Witch Tats on Instagram, and I got my Ouija board planchette with her last year, so I'm getting another one this year. And then on Friday, the retreat starts. So I'm going to have a couple days to just chill out before the retreat starts. And then the retreat goes until Tuesday morning. And so, yeah, you'll have to follow along because I'll be posting tons of cool content. And then when I get back from the retreat, I will create a podcast episode to talk about all my takeaways and the things that I learned and the people that I met. And then I'm also going to be meeting I have an upcoming interview for you guys with John Kozik from the Salem Witch Board Museum. So I'm going to be meeting up with John in Salem at his museum, and he's going to help me pick out a Ouija board, and it's going to be so fun. And oh my gosh, I can't handle it. I can't believe it's happening so soon. I have not started packing, which after I get off recording, I'm going to go into my bedroom and start packing. But that's basically what we're doing. My mom's visiting later this month in September, so I'm going to have her try to help me get my life together a little bit after this retreat. What else? We're going to Mexico for a week at the beginning of October during my son's fall break, which is always kind of fun to do this time of year because usually they start decorating. They have a lot of Dia de los Muertos stuff up, which is amazing. We actually went one year on the Day of the Dead. We flew to Cabo the day after Halloween, and we were able to see all of their Day of the Dead decorations and stuff, and that was so cool. But unfortunately, my son's fall break is earlier in October, so we have to go when we can. But, I'm still deciding what I'm going to wear for Halloween. Let me have you help me decide. I was thinking about either going as Lady Gaga from her Abracadabra video or Morticia Addams. So both are icons. I could dress up my husband as Gomez Addams, or I could dress my husband up as the lady in red from the Lady Gaga video, and I could be Lady Gaga in white. I mean, he's going to have red hair, so actually kind of perfect. So you let me know what you guys think. I'll put a poll up on my Instagram. But yeah, this is what I'm up to. I would love for you guys to share what you guys are up to. Thank you for joining me in celebrating the season of the witch. There's so many fun episodes that are going to be coming out over the next 2 months. And whether your witchy side shows up through rituals, autumn walks, spell work, or just cozying up with your favorite witchy book or movie, this season is about embracing the magic that already exists around us. I'd love to know what's making you feel witchy right now. Share it with me over on Instagram, or let me know what books, songs, or rituals you're weaving into your own season. And don't forget our Big Crystal Energy Book Club with Ava Morgan and The Bane Witch, which is dropping on Friday, September 12th. So grab your copy and read along if you haven't already. And until next time, may your autumn days be full of magic, mystery, and just the right amount of spooky. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye! Thank you so much for jumping down the rabbit hole with me. If you connected with this episode in any way, I would love it if you could share it with a friend. Also, please tag me on social media. I'm at mystical.mama.ash or at Big Crystal Energy Podcast, mostly on Instagram. It helps so much getting my episodes out there and finding more magical, kooky, and spooky friends. Sending you all big crystal energy. Cheers!